Hello, welcome to the third tutorial for Nebulous Fleet Command. This one focuses on damage control. Before I get into that, I'm going to talk about some things that I had noticed in retrospect while reviewing the footage of the weapons tutorial. The first one was that I had confused the track number for the range initially, because the track number is much more prominent than the range is. This makes sense, but I'm not certain how to deal with that. It's just something that occurred and it seemed worth mentioning. The second thing that I noticed on review is that there was a brief moment of confusion that I had when firing the missiles, specifically the SGM 225s is what you're instructed to fire. There is no SGM 225. There has apparently at some point been a moment where it has been renamed to the SGM 222. So that is a little bit confusing. Not a big deal because they have the name. I guess the easiest way to fix that is to either change the number back or to just refer them to them by name. It's not a big deal. I figured it out, obviously. But with that, let's get into damage control, learn how to not die when getting shot at, or I suppose more importantly, how to
Alright,
fix
ready for something
damage.
really nerve-wracking? For as long as you're out here in space, it's inevitable that you're going to take a few hits over the course of your career.
Alright, so
In reality, the odds of us coming out unscathed in an engagement are exceedingly low. If you want to stay fit and combat effective, you're going to need to learn how to repair damage. Let's begin.
yay,
To
damage.
start, select the A and S Small Beginnings. I've had my boys set up some simulated scenarios for us to cover. Just stay cool. You'll start seeing some damage come up.
Alright, damage.
For the purpose of this training exercise, I've just
Oh, no.
simulated damage in 3 of the Small Beginnings subsystems: Mount 1, the main radar controller, and the Combat Information Center.
Alright. And I also see a fire, and command is disabled, apparently. Probably because
In the ship list, you'll notice a number of new
of the
icons have
damage.
appeared.
Yep, I was just
The orange
noticing
number
that.
indicates the number of damaged components with active debuffs, which affects the performance of those damaged components.
Okay, so what's the debuff that a fire does?
If there's a fire, it will be indicated here. Obviously, a fire in an enclosed space is a serious threat to ship survival. It'll slowly damage the ship over time, and it'll also slow down the working speed of damage control teams.
Alright, that second one seems very important to know.
This red number indicates the components have been damaged to the point where they are no longer functional. This
Yeah.
also includes components which have been completely destroyed.
Okay, so this is why I was correct. The command being disabled was because of damage to the CIC.
The red chevrons indicate the ship's command system are not operational, meaning they are no longer receiving any orders. Open the action menu to see what it looks like. The text at the center of the action menu will display "Not Receiving" when a ship can't receive orders. This is because the CIC, or Combat Information Center, has taken critical damage. You
That's
may have
actually
warships
really
with backup
important to
command
keep in
systems
mind.
that allow maneuvering orders to be carried out while the CIC is disabled. This allows you to get your ship to safety and effect repairs. However, this ship isn't fitted with that.
That seems like an important system to keep in mind.
Going back to the ship's status display, we can see the damaged components and their locations.
And one thing that this is making me think about, I know that there is the ability to create custom ship loadouts. I'm very curious to see how much control I have over where internal components end up, and if it's possible to like spread them out so that, like, let's say your CIC isn't right next to something that allows your ship to continue maneuvering.
By clicking on the status display, we can open the damage control board. Do so now.
Yeah, I'm in here. There we go.
The damage control board will show all of the components installed on the ship and their current status. You can use the filter buttons at the top to suppress things that you don't want to see.
Control reestablished.
Oh, my CIC just repaired, apparently.
Your damage control officer will automatically prioritize repairs based on how important a component is. For example, your reactor and CIC are going to be priority 1, as they're critical to the operation of the ship.
Yeah, that makes sense. My reactor is this thing here.
If you have your own priorities, you can click on one of the items on the board to prioritize it manually. Prioritized items are highlighted in blue. Keep in mind that changing priorities frequently can cause teams to move around a lot, which wastes valuable time that could be used for repairs.
Alright.
Damage control teams are stationed in a DC locker and will move from there when damage is taken. It'll take time for repairs to start, as the teams need to get themselves and their tools to the casualty.
Alright.
You can see the progress of the damage control teams by the gauge filling up on their token. Hazards like fires are their first priority, before they'll begin repairing actual damage, as these can deal damage over time.
Alright. Okay, and I'm guessing that these icons mean that that's where the damage control team is currently located.
The important thing to remember is that once a component has taken damage below 90%, it can never be fully repaired back to 100%. Maximum repair is 10% more than the lowest integrity level the component had at the time of repairs.
Okay. Alright, that makes sense. So this was at 5%, now it's at 15%.
We'll let your teams work before we continue.
Alright, well,
let's do 2 more drills. The first is a component restoration exercise.
Alright.
The CIC is now destroyed, with the integrity at 0%. Repair teams won't begin repairs to get it operational again, without you explicitly telling them to do so.
But it looks like they are, in fact, getting rid of the fire.
You'll need to get it repaired. In the damage control board, find the CIC and use left shift plus left click to order your repair teams to start working on it. Once it's repaired, the ship will be able to receive orders again.
Okay.
This must be done manually, because restoring a component is a time and equipment intensive process. The equipment to do so is stored in the DC locker, and each locker only holds enough materials for 1 or 2 restorations.
Alright. And I'm guessing that I only had enough for 1.
Although the CIC is disabled, and this ship can't receive orders to move or fire, you will always be able to prioritize damage control to attempt repairs.
And I can see that it's slowly...
But this means that your repair teams are extremely vulnerable. They're moving into parts of the ship that are actively taking enemy fire, and could very well be killed.
Yeah, alright.
If all the personnel on a team are killed in action, you'll lose the team completely. If you run out of repair teams, you won't be able to repair at all. You can't replenish teams outside of a port, so keep that in mind.
Alright, so that's actually an important thing to keep in mind.
We'll wait for your teams to finish their work, then we'll continue.
Yeah, we're almost done already. Does it restore to 100%, I wonder?
Control
Now that the
restored.
CIC is restored, the Small Beginnings is ready to receive orders again. After the teams reboot all of the computers, that is.
Nope, it's just back to 15%. Huh.
Lastly, we'll do something a little dangerous, a catastrophic scenario.
Okay.
Most component damage is localized, and will only affect the part of the ship where the damage was received. On the other hand, catastrophic scenarios are situations which, left unchecked, will eventually take the whole ship down.
Alright.
These situations include reactor overloads, magazine explosions, and fuel line fires, just to name a few. Your repair teams will automatically move to prevent catastrophic damage, so there's not much you can do except watch. Just get a feel for what it will look like.
Alright, and I'm guessing that countdown is how long I have.
Your damage control officer will always prioritize repairs for a situation like this. The ship's survival always comes first.
Alright. I'm guessing, yeah, both my repair teams are probably there. One of them is idle. I wonder if you can only have one repair team working at a time, in which case that might mean that I could repair 2 critical.
Notice the flashing warning icon in the ship's list. Below the icon is an estimated countdown before the situation gets out of control. If you don't know what's wrong, you can hover over the warning icon to see a tooltip.
Yeah, okay.
Out of all the catastrophic damage you might see, reactor overloads are the most deadly. Your teams know how to work with a damaged reactor, but fires and other hazards can make it a nearly impossible task to complete.
Alright.
Should the reactor go critical, you'll see a reactor bloom with a blast radius of about 1.5 kilometers. Standard doctrine states to move all of the friendly warships out of the danger radius of a ship with an impending reactor overload.
So don't get closer than about 1.5 kilometers to ships that I think might be dying.
Be careful around enemy wrecks as well. Your weapons could have damaged the reactor housings, and you'll get little to no warning before they go off.
Alright, that's done.
But Commander, that's it for your damage control trials. Just keep an eye on your teams and be smart about their movements, and you'll come out just fine. Remember, the ship's survival always comes first.
Alright, I think that's probably it. That was actually a pretty short one. I'll probably have to do it a couple times, but it was fairly straightforward. I'm gonna probably have to also play at least one skirmish or something to see how they actually react. I'm curious to see if the damage control teams go to two different critical situations, or if they'll both go to the same one. If they prioritize critical situations differently, perhaps they will both go to the reactor if the reactor has a critical situation and a fire, and one will fight the fire while the other one works on the damage. Who knows? That's something that I can learn over time. Very interesting, really neat and in-depth. Good to see. Going to be looking forward to the next tutorial. Thank you very much. Bye.